Everyone. Today, it's my honor to introduce Dr. Zhicheng Jiao, Assistant Professor in the Department of Radiology at Brown University since 2021. He's the director of the AI Lab and is leading the establishment of the Image 4 at Brown University Health. Dr. Jiao received his PhD in 2018 and a bachelor's degree in 2013 from City University. He completed postdoc training at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and the University of Pennsylvania. His research focuses on image-centric advancing processing and analysis methods for healthcare research and translation. His research results have been widely published in both AI technological conferences and journals, as well as top-tier clinical journals. His work has been supported by the NIH, NSF, Department of Defense, Bank of America Private Bank, and Brown University. Please join me to welcome Dr. Jiao.
Thank you everyone for coming, and it's my great pleasure to be here. The title of my presentation may be a little bit weird to you guys, but a medical school guy introduce something like AI to a computer science department. But actually, as Dr. Deng mentioned, my background is all about computer science and double E. And then, I do my thesis focused on the medical image analysis and have a 2-year postdoc training in US with the radiology department, and then lead a radiology research lab. So I think, at the beginning of our talk, I like to briefly introduce the workflow of radiology department. If some patient feel uncomfortable, a certain body part, he or she will, have a schedule with the PCP or the family doctor first, and then the family doctor will refer them to their medical specialty. And if the doctor thinks radiology imaging is needed, the patient will be further, scheduled to an imaging center or the radiology department. But there are 2 groups of faculty in the radiology department. The first is the radiology technician. They guide you to take the picture there, no matter if CT, MRI, or other kind of scanning machine. And the other group is the radiologist, the doctors who read your image and then write a report. And then, he or she will use the report to refer you to a specific, other doctors, like if it's kind of lung tumor or lung cancer, refer to a pulmonologist or other, disease. So in the radiology department, we usually use a variety of different imaging modalities, from the very basic X-ray, like the chest X-ray, when it's very high demand during the COVID, because it's maybe the easiest screening method to screen the lung lesions. And then it's something like a 3D X-ray. It's a series of different sections and reconstruct the X-ray into a 3D space that provide you more visual detail. And also more advanced, like the MRI and the functional MRI. We use the magnetic field to control something like the atom in the body part, and then get higher resolution, especially for the soft tissue, like the brain tissue. Also, there are more advanced things like the nuclear medicine. They use certain type of radiation tracer in their scanning, and inject that to patient. Then they will overlap this kind of image to the basic CT. So you will highlight the potential or the suspicious tumor regions on the image. That's something very advanced in the cancer study. And also something more popular like the ultrasound, because it uses the echo waves. That is, no harm to any patient. So you will use that a lot during the OBG or kind of like pregnancy, or to the very sensitive people like the children. Actually, in each step of the radiology workflow, the machine learning or the computer, especially the computer vision, have been very well aligned with each step. Like the pre-processing is something like improve the image quality. the concept like super resolution in computer vision. Also something like the lesion detection, organ segmentation, and also something like the prediction. It's kind of like a classification or regression task. But this society, the radiology society, can't get offended by the AI leader. Everyone knows him, the AI godfather, Professor Hinton. He gave some prediction like about 9 years ago. We should stop training radiologists. He thinks AI will take over in 5 years. But everyone knows that, what happened now. Radiology live an even better life with the help of AI. But I think the society really get motivated by the AI comments. This is the, I guess, is the largest medical meeting, annual conference, in the medical field. There are about 50,000 attendants every year from all over the world. The Radiology Association. After, the 2016, when they get the very strong comments from Hinton, the topic of this annual meeting becomes more intelligent. Especially last year, it's two very popular topics in this field, like the intelligent connection. It's something like the connected health. The very important topic that Professor Shi is leading now, I think, the connected health. So that's why I think the radiology departments have a very tight tie with the AI research or the computer vision. As a result, all these research efforts definitely pay off. Every medical device, if it wants to be sold on the market, it needs the FDA approval. And since the last 20 years, there have been more than 1,000 FDA approved AI products. And the majority of them are radiology, more than 70% of them. And the second largest share is cardiovascular. It's something like our heart and our vessel. And most of them are still based on the image. So that means radiology may take over 80% of all these medical AI devices. They become the leaders in the medical or healthcare AI research and translation. Also, physically, they get paid off. Recent years, radiologists have been the top paid medical specialties. And, the two, make a little bit more than them, mostly the surgeon doctor. But the surgeon doctor, they may need additional 3 or 4 years training than the radiologist. And the more beauty, of the radiology job is you can work from home if you just read the image. And a lot of them are doing remotely and part-time. Even I know some of my friends, they do the traveling radiologist job. They may only spend, half of their time reading image and then other half of their time traveling all over the world because, they only need to read the image. But I guess maybe radiology already is the highest paid if we count by hours. If you want, make a little bit more, you can definitely do the procedure in radiology department. They name something like the interventional radiology. And with the help of AI, their workload become a little bit relieved, but there are still way more image being scanned every day because there are more and more advanced imaging scanning method, more advanced device. So there's still a very big shortage of radiologists. Like when I talked to our chair in Radiology Society, they mentioned now if you get graduated from a radiology program, averagely 4 to 5 job offers are waiting for you, no matter you prefer to work part-time or full-time. Now let's divide a little bit detail into the radiology research. I will use some examples of our research team, from the pre-processing to the basic quantification to the patient outcome prediction. The first chapter is about the imaging point. In our society, the visibility sometimes means you can detect a specific disease. On the left side is the MR image from different devices, from lower to higher magnetic field. We can see that, the 70 MR machine can generate very high performance, very high resolution images than the 1.5T. But it's kind of like, cost effect benefit, because the 70 device is not that widely available. It's very big and it's super expensive. So mostly of the, early scanning use 1.5T or 3T for follow-up. So it's a very important topic to generate or reconstruct some, high resolution image from the low resolution input. Also in the, specific tasks like the CT, if you use higher radiation dose, you will get high resolution image. But, some patients are very sensitive to the radiation dose because, it's kind of like a risk factor to cancer. So we also need to compromise something, before the multimodality or the vision language model. We do a lot like the super resolution use the deep neural network, like the ResNet here. We input the low resolution MR image and reconstruct to compare them with the high resolution ground truth. And after that, we can apply that to low resolution image as input, even if patients don't have 3T or 7T. Even this could not be the real golden standard, but it provides a second opinion for the radiology as a reference. Also, another challenge is because of the advanced radiology scan are very expensive, like the brain MRI. If you do a full package of something like the brain tumor scan, the total cost may be 10,000. Even after copay, even after the insurance take care of some part of that, you still need to pay maybe 3,000 or 5,000. That's a lot of money. So, but some frequencies are still very important to the diagnosis or the patient evaluation. For example, in the brain tumor from the left, we can see the plan scan, the very basic imaging scan. It very clearly shows the normal tissue and some boundary of the whole tumor. But when it comes to the tumor texture information, the T2 image provides more detail and highlights the tumor core. And something like if you get something like the contrast to the patient, you will get better resolution around the boundary of the tumor core. That usually be the most aggressive part, because the tumor will become more metastasis, during this boundary, and it's kind of like guide to the surgeons when they try to remove the tumor. So in a real-world clinical setting, if a patient only has the very basic image, could we generate something like the missing T2 image or the T1 contrast intensive image? That's something we try to use the scan model, the very powerful generative model, use one as input and the other as output. The last column is from our method. We can see that, the T2 image generated by our model are, very similar to the real ground truth compared to other data. This is also published on maybe the top 1, top 2 medical image analysis journal. Even though the result looks very promising from, our technical perspective, but radiologists don't believe that. They think, seeing is believing, because they think no matter how high quality your generated image are, they are still fake. So we prefer to do something like, if your AI model can be more robust or generalizable to the missing modality. So get inspired by the dropout technology in the deep neural network. I think if you take the machine learning class, you will know, you will drop out some weights or parameters in the model training. Then the model become more robust to, to other noise data set. So we introduce this logic to the input layers. We randomly drop out some of the, imaging modalities. So the model could be more robust to do the diagnosis or the segmentation, even we may only have one sequence. And the results show that, it's comparable to the full that they had input. That's something radiologists prefer. And once we get a high quality image, we will move to the next part, like, how could we quantify the tumor, like the size, the shape, or the texture, detailed texture information of the tumor, because there may be some clinically meaningful biomarker from this tumor. Like this, if we do the lung cancer treatment, we can segment the tumor from the CT, and then we can do something like the radiation therapy, or we can do the ablation therapy. So from the very beginning, we do something like the fully supervised segmentation. We ask the radiologist to label a large data set and train tests on them. But when it will come to the age of large language model or the foundation model, we need thousands or even tens of thousands of images. It's not durable to ask radiologists to label all of them. And also, we have a lot of existing data sets that may have the cheap imaging scan, like the CT scan, but they like to see if this model can transfer to more advanced image, like the MR scan. So we do something like the cross-modality segmentation. We align the representation in a latent space, and then this model could be adapted to the MR image, even if it's only trained on the CT image. And we even move forward, like we ask radiologists to label a very small part of the existing data set, like the active learning concept in the machine learning. We usually, randomly choose some image, but if the image is not challenging enough, the model may not learn enough information from that. So we use the uncertainty-based, evaluation method and let radiologists double check if this case is challenging enough. Okay, you can further, label that and let AI model learn from that. With this kind of technology, we can achieve the similar performance, even only get something like 15 to 20% image label compared to the fully labeled data set. And based on the segmentation results, we can generate something like the radiomic feature, the shape, the size of the tumor. For example, in this pediatric tumor, like the brain tumor in children's brain, the diameters of the tumor could be further correlated with the patient outcome. That's something like the clinically meaningful biomarker. Also, we use this kind of segmentation to guide the tumor ablation. It's kind of technology user, no matter if heat or freeze the tumor via a probe. And the segmentation mask could be overlapped with the treatment region. And we could overlap them to focus on the tumor and do less harm to the normal tissues. And the last part is diagnose and prognosis. It's something like after you get the radiology report, other doctors will take care of the patient care, like, deliver certain kind of pharmacy or do a certain procedure. So actually, that's the first study I do during my PhD. At that time, I format this question as a pure classification task, and I'm very excited about the high accuracy or the very good performance. But when I talk to the radiologist, they say, oh, it's not what I want. I don't like you to make decision for me or take over my job. I like you provide some reference. So when I do my postdoc, I work closely or even every day with radiologists. We further combine different imaging modalities and provide something like the tumor subtype and predict the patient outcome, like if the patient is high risk or low risk to be dead in the next 2 years. So they will give more progressive treatment to the patient with high risk. That's something they like. Also, we further, transfer this to something like the lung cancer. We compare the tumor size of different time points using the AI-based segmentation method to see if the tumor recurrence or if there is a treatment positive response. And I have also been, establishing very multidisciplinary, collaboration in our brown health system. Someone from the engineering, someone from each department of the health system, and also from other, society like the biostatistic, the pathology to confirm the patient outcome. It's a very strong team because, most of them have the cross-disciplinary background, and we can provide complementary expertise to generate both the, technical results and clinical translation results. And with the multidisciplinary help, we do something like predict the patient outcome of COVID, and using both their EHR data together with the imaging data. Also, we integrated that with our research environment end to end, like query the image, grab everything automatically, and provide the prediction, and instead that back to the patient, recording. Also, we further move forward to integrated other information, like something like we named the liquid biopsy. The traditional biopsy is something you use a very big needle to get the tumor tissue from the body. It's invasive. You can't do that, very at a high frequency. So if you can get a tube of blood from the, from some vessel connected to the lung, we may detect some tumor cell from this blood. That's less invasive. So we further use the deep learning imaging to facilitate something like the false negative. Some patients, their cancer recurrence, but their blood tumor test is something like the negative. So we use deep learning based method to further correct and identify this patient and provide a better prediction on that. And the next, or maybe the most interesting, is writing the report, because the large language model, especially the vision language model, is perfectly aligned with the workflow of radiologists. Take image as input and then write a report. It's kind of like take over their job, but actually the performance of radiology, VLM is not that good because the radiology image is super heterogeneous. You need to train disease specific or even patient specific model for every of them. This is some study we do. We align the representation of both the imaging and the report, and then in the testing, the better aligned model can generate a high quality report. Also, we use something like further dissect the entire image into different anatomy parts, and this part could be correlated with specific sentence or even word in the radiology report, and further improve the performance. Also, we try to translate that to certain patient group, like this in the COVID chest X-ray. We use the generative report to further improve the outcome prediction performance. Also, we do something like the more advanced, like the 3D VLM, because most of the so-called generalizable medical VLM are trained on, even if a screenshot from the online data set. That's way different from the real world clinical setting. So we try to adapt the existing model to the 3D image and generate something like the radiology-based diagnosis and report. Also, we try to address the women health, like apply this kind of foundation model to the ovarian cancer. And we can get that, with very big supervision from the radiologist. The model can generate very good tumor mask. It saves a lot of time and provide very accurate segmentation. Also, recently, based on our experience, we figured out some existing challenges in this field and just published this systematic review paper from the data set to the final step, like integration into healthcare system. Also, recently, we have some large scale study, like, generated report from the input CT image as input, and we figure out that the so-called generalizable model doesn't perform that good. But when we further, adapt that to the specific image modality, the result is significantly improved. Also, we further get some external validation data set. In last study, we use the Brown data as internal development data set and the Johns Hopkins as external validation. Here, we further add the Stanford data set as another external validation. The performance further improved. Also, there's some more like the technical innovation from a pure computer vision perspective, like we integrated different image view and further improve the report generation. Or we use something like the human AI collaboration to let radiologists get involved into the loop. So we have all the powerful tools. So the entire life cycle of this product to, integrated into clinical practice is the FDA, approval. So we are ready in the first 3 stages. So in the last 2 stages, we need more translational collaboration, like with both the industry and with other departments. Also, this is something like strongly supported by the High Tech Act, even since the President Obama period, because he initiated something like the high tech to use the informatic method to involve the healthcare system. And after that time, all the NIH funded program is kind of like 6 times more than the pre-high tech period. And again, all this effort paid off, like the FDA approved AI product, but there are significant limitation. Like in this study, when we do a review on the existing FDA approved medical imaging device, we found that most of them only validated on very small scale data set. That's really some generalization issues. So we further build an evaluation platform. Our radiologists can provide feedback, and then this feedback could help the AI company to further improve the model performance. And in our very unique Rhode Island healthcare system, we have the overall control the imaging data from more than 1,600 different sites. So we can do a large scale study and evaluation on all this kind of model. We have been collaborating with both the startup and some AI tech giants like the Siemens Healthcare, because we have both the hardware and a very good software platform. And I appreciate the support from our team. We have a joint team from both, the Brown side and other university, and our students are very diverse because they have very heterogeneous background. Like some medical students, they do the computer science as their bachelor degree, and then they do something like the imaging analysis because they like to be the radiologist. It's kind of like the radiologist is a programmer in the medical field. And some of them, they even chose other specialty. Also, I have some PhD students major in computer science or biomedical engineering. It's a team science. And for this kind of, multidisciplinary, collaboration. And we have built very strong multi-site collaboration with both the very good engineering school and a very good hospital system. That is very, very unique as well, because, not a lot of the hospital like you to use their data set. But once we set up everything locally, they like us to send something like our pre-trained model and they evaluate, provide feedback. Yeah, that's something like a win-win. Also, I acknowledge my support from this. And again, let's revisit this prediction. Stop training radiologists. But I think the radiology society is embracing this revolution, like the very famous radiology professor say. He's also the chair of the RCA review. He thinks radiology should learn how to use AI. But I put my little name here with the big guys. I think everything should be the human-centric. We should train the AI model to collaborate with humans instead of let AI dominate everything. And recently, it's very interesting. Henry revised his prediction, like AI will not take over. The combination of AI and the radiologists will be the better choice in the near future. And yeah, I definitely agree with this now. And thank you.
We go to Jiao for excellent talk. Now, probably the Q&A session, we're doing really good in time because we can accommodate a lot of you. Anyone have?
So I have one question. So like if you work, it's easy to kind like to do much better than the than this like a radiologist. So how can they would like to collaborate with you? You will make them to lose the job.
I don't think it's kind of look job because they are more and more overwhelmed because there are more image. So they like to benefit from the AI collaboration. And in a recent study, it's more like the AI could perform like as well as a third-year radiology trainee. So that means the shareholder now, like the senior radiology, they're like, oh, I could hire less residents, and maybe I can hire better residents in the future, but by several AI assistants. Then maybe there will be a new job in the very near future, like radiology assistant instead of junior radiologist. That's something they also, figure out like their primary care, because they find if they hire a lot of, family doctor, the cost will be very high to the institution. But if they hire, senior family doctor with several, PA, the physician assistants, they will be more efficient with the help of AI, to provide the healthcare service. That's why I guess the PA is a very, very competitive program now, because they could be the family doctor, even they don't go medical school. They can do a 2-year or 3-year program, even during your undergraduate, and you can become a family doctor in the very near future. It's kind of very good cost benefit, Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Great talk.
Thank
you so much for sharing with us. And also, I took an image of this. You showed us the salary. This was supposedly the salary.
Yeah, the salary.
The salary of this. This is today for the computer science. This is something really cool. I think what you mentioned, a couple of things here is really one of the things I shared with you our department trying to do. I agree with you that computer science as a generic computer science itself, it will be less and less attractive on the market today. I'm not looking for radiology, just computer science itself. For us, particularly for the students today, you really need to find some what we call vertical applications. So either you can choose autonomous driving, obviously, welcome that. But for example, this radiologist, those are one of the highly demanded area that if our students, you're trying to take in some courses related to the biomedical imaging or to get yourself in this field, probably it will be much better on the market. So now I go to the question asking you. So yourself, as in generic trainings, in computer science or computer imaging, right? So in this case, so what's your lessons you learned from undergraduate students to all the PhD, now to become an expert in this domain? Right now, we are hosting in the medical school now. So if one of the students here said, okay, I like this, I want to pursue the similar career path maybe you do. So what's your, the suggestions or advice to them?
That's a great question. I think, it's a long story short, when I chose to become a computer science student, my parents are opposite to that because they both doctors. They like me to go to medical school. But I don't like that because I think they're too busy, especially in China. So I chose something, I can make your life easier. That's what I'm doing now, and I think, nowadays, based on my experience, more and more medical students working with me, they have a computer science bachelor degree. Because with the help of AI, the medical domain has become more open to the engineering school, I think. Because in the future, every doctor needs to know how to work efficiently with AI. So I think the computer science students themselves, they already have the background knowledge. That's very unique advantage of that. And I think based on my experience, when I graduated as a PhD, it's kind of like 2019. It's about 6 years ago. At that time, it's not very common, for every radiology department have an AI research or clinical translation team. Maybe at that time, only the top institutions like Harvard, Johns Hopkins, UPenn, and Stanford, they have this program. But now, as I know, every radiology department here, if they do any research, they definitely have an AI team. So I have been seeing more and more, computer science and biomedical engineering students coming to join us. That I think is definitely a second opinion for the computer science student. Either you like become medical students or you are expert in something like medical imaging. Even you just do the research, it's still a very good opportunity, I think.
Thank you. So I want to make it one, go a little deep. For example, if let's pick William, I don't mind if he said, I want to do that. So what's the next course he or she should take?
I think at Brown, they have something like their medical imaging analysis class, and they also have something named the medical physics. You will know the fundamental of, how to you get the image and do the pre-processing. And nowadays, all these class, have very close tie to the AI. So after you take this kind of course, you can choose to do a kind of like, 1 or 2 year postdoc with the, radiology department. You will be familiar with the workflow of radiologists every day. So you can be more independent at that time.
Yeah, so I think the training of multidisciplinary students, from my understanding, I'm also working on this. I feel first of all, you want to find students who are open-minded. That's very important. And also, I think the advisor's position is like matchmakers, right? So you have all these resources, and then integrate them. The student they must be open-minded. Like I think that's very fundamental.
Yeah, and I can use some example here. The first girl, she was a biomedical engineering undergraduate, and then to medical school in now, she is a urologist in New Jersey. Just closing here, and that's something like the common routine of medical students. But for other students like this boy, he was a computer science major at CIM, then he moved to Brown to the medical school, and now he has been matched to the Columbia Medical School to the training as a radiologist. And also this boy, even he quit from the medical school, he's kind of like a tech leader in Google. Because Google has their own, medical AI team. Yeah, he's a medical AI expert now. And other students like this guy, he do an undergraduate from MIT, and then he do some research. Now he's a joint Harvard MIT medical student. I think we have different career paths, no matter your background, when you do your undergraduate.
So after getting the computer science bachelor degree, do you think how many years training needed to become a radiologist?
Oh, I don't think it's very common to become a radiologist, but you can become an imaging expert in this field. If you like to become a radiologist, you need to do a medical school first.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, in America, there was no medical degree in bachelor's degree. That's why you can see some computer science students going to medical school. Basically, there is no undergrad. So it's normal. It's actually not normal.
Yeah, but I think there are more and more, students from computer science, then they go to medical school because their experience is still unique. It's still the minor, because most of them are from the biology background or biomedical engineering. But if you are computer science, you can choose to be a medical student, focus on the radiology in the future, or do something like the radiation oncology. Because if you can use the radiology device to do something like the cancer treatment, that is still the very high paid job. If you don't go to a medical school, you can do something like the medical physics as well. Yeah.
Maybe we should consider offer elective class on the medical physics to our students. So that we should prepare.
Please have some questions. Yeah.
How do you deal with the data sharing problem?
Oh, it's a very, very good question. It's something, every computer science researcher is suffering today. I don't think any hospital like to share data. That's why we build the collaboration, with other institutions. We set up a specific collaboration within each institution. And then we don't share the data. We do something, even the faculty learning, they don't like. They don't like their in-network computer connected to a server, But we can definitely share our training model to them. And based on their feedback, we can further tune our.
The API or the model you have.
We provide all the parameters, all the weights of the model, and send all our code to them. They can deploy something on their server, because the hospital needs everything to under the firewall. They don't like send any data out. But if you have to share some data, it's better you do something named the data use sharing agreement, and that's something it's very time consuming. I do some very large scale collaboration with Harvard. We send about 300 chapter every to them. I may only use 5 days to prepare all the data, but I spend 2 years to get the DTUA done. That's something very, very painful. Yeah.
We have another question.
I said a question about, you had FDA approval, you had this talk about cross collaboration with different units and early adoption. And so even on this campus, we have individuals who use animals for studies and animal models. And thinking of the cross collaboration from BME folks to all of our biologists and psychology majors. Is there an opportunity to reach out to the students who work with the animal models to train them about, they might not be computer science individuals, but help them get the early adoption, because becoming a radiologist is a very niche and direct path versus people who are more in the laboratories now learning, working with animal models now. Do you have a plan, or is there something that shows this working in animal models that can translate it then after the approval then to human models?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, some experience I learned is, if you do something like, the collaboration of wet lab with a dry lab, it's better to get some NIH funding first. They like to see this kind of like translation. You can submit something together, because this proposal will be very strong, because you have complementary effort time. After this, maybe the first R21 or R1 even, you can get some research results. And then you can establish a startup yourself, or even with someone outside. You can submit something like a small business grant to NIH or NSF. That's the pathway to the translation based on my experience. Because you already have the preliminary results, and you like to further package like a real product on the shelf, on the shelf.
Do we have any other questions?
Yes, Governor, I have a question about like the image pre-processing and the segmentation, because when we do the medical image, and their key challenge is how to align the cells. For example, cell A and cell B, they're somehow similar, but because they have different location and translation, even the doctor is very hard to distinguish if that's cell A or B. I'm not sure in this radiology, does it have the same challenge? Like, how do you make this, I don't know, the flotation or translation, like the image to train the data or train the model?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And even radiology can provide something like image-based ground truth. It's kind of like a pseudo ground truth, because if you don't open the patient body, you don't get the tumor. You don't know if it's benign or malignant. So that's why we work closely with pathologists. Now, if we like to do something like a tumor segmentation and do the classification, we need to get the pathology report first. They will describe if this is a malignant or benign tumor. That's why we need multi-site or multidisciplinary collaboration. That's 100% correct way. But if you only focus on the radiology imaging itself, you can still do something like the basic organ segmentation. But I don't think that's still a lot to do in this field, like the organ segmentation,
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, following the question on that, I'm curious, was there any case in your practice that AI outperform radiologists?
That's a good question. We do a very good Turing test recently, and we just made a preprint. You know, something like we generate a report, and you know the left side is AI, or right side is AI, or you know the other is a radiology written one, and let them review and choose which one they prefer.
Yeah.
It seems no matter which one is objectively better from some performance metric, radiologists tend to choose what they write. You know, even if not right by themselves, by their colleague, maybe, you know. And if something like a little bit dangerous to talk, like sometimes I think AI perform a little bit better than the junior trainees in radiology department. But when it compared to the very experienced guys, it's still, you know, not that good. So
Is it because AI was like largely data driven and, you know, there is a pyramid in terms of seniority of the training experience?
yeah,
So the AI was only being able to train on data generated by the trainers.
yeah. And I think, you know, there are too many variations in the imaging, like from the different scanner you are using, different parameter when you scan the patient, or even from different technician, you know, their you know daily routine is a little bit different. You will generate, you know, some image that look different from a very detailed view. So you know that's why I don't see they're very good foundational, you know, generalizable medical imaging AI model in radiology field. And I haven't seen, you know, the very good, you know, or top tier Nature paper published on this topic. But there are definitely a lot like the pathology, because their image is more like a 2D image. Everything is the tissues or the cells, you know.
Any further questions? I can ask additional question like, so for say all these students and when we were talking, we mentioned that the open public data set is about breast cancer. So are you and your team interested in, you know, publishing more public data sets such that, you know, other team specialized in computer science can also join the force to develop?
Yeah, because there are already some large scale public data sets. I think the most famous now is they name it the Mimic. They already have 5 or 4 different versions now. They most of the chest X-ray and also have their, you know, clinical data. And someone, you know, like my friend Howard, he also leads a large scale, you know, public data set to release. And, you know, there are more than, I think when I participate, there are 95 from all over the world, different institutions. And we all send data to Harvard, and then they release the data set. It's something like the joint commission, you know, but I don't think, you know, single institution could publish a very big data set nowadays, because there are lots of, you know, regulation challenge now. You know, I think, you know, from, you know, some existing news, even you leak the protected health information of 1 or 2 patients, you will get, you know, maybe a 10 million bill on that from the federal government. You know, it's a very strict, you know, penalty. That's why, you know, that's definitely a barrier, you know, between the release of the data set. But I think, you know, we can provide a platform. If you develop some model or public data set, you can send your model to us. We can deploy our data and give you feedback. That's why we established the imaging core. You know, we serve both the research and the translation. If we send the result to the research collaborator, it's like a research collaboration. If we send result to the industry partner, it's like a translation, you know.
Maybe okay.
There are more questions.
Do you see this working in countries that have, or not a lot of money, where you have like a 1.3 Tesla MRI, you have a lower quality image versus 7 Tesla MRI, which is vastly different prices. Do you see it being able to deploy in areas where there's not that much opportunity for healthcare, and that where they may have lower resolution MRIs, and you can use your model to supplement the fact that it's a lower resolution MRI to come up with the solution they need.
Yeah, that's definitely a great question. And, it's kind of like the real, translation into population, because as I know, some AI giants like the Siemens Health, they already integrate some third-party, startup product into their platform, like a leading star in this field named the Sabato AI. They definitely do something like from low resolution MRI to the high resolution. So supposing that they are low income country buyer, 1.5 Tesla MRI from Siemens, and they, sell them a bundle that with the super resolution package, so they can generate some usable 3T or 7T on that. Yeah.
I have a bunch of questions, but I'm not sure if I should use time to really discuss. We're running.
With people.
Yeah, okay. So I think, I don't know if this is related to your research, but medical data, they tend to vibrate because of humans' motion, etc. Do you comment on that? Like, what's the kind of trend on this deblurring, registration, etc.?
Yeah, because it's kind of like, a well-studied field maybe 10 years ago, but with the help of foundation model, there are more and more like a foundational registration model, foundational denoising model in the field. Yeah, because I think it's more durable than, input a report from input image, because you provide a very strong, prior knowledge, like input is not an image, output is not image as well, Yeah. So I think, it's definitely a very good topic, but you will need real data sets, large scale real data sets. The low quality, the high quality peers is better, Yeah.
And also, I've seen that in your slide, you show the collaboration between, maybe show some picture of doing the biopsy or like a surgical motion. So what's the challenges in doing that kind of imaging now that you have physical word about the needles are within those? Is it an issue for you to quantify things?
Yeah, I think it's an issue for the radiologist, because if you are more experienced, maybe you can get the real tumor tissue one shot. But if you are not that experienced, you may get normal tissue, and that may lead something like a misclassification. You will be sued. So usually, patients don't indirectly, talk to radiologists, but when they talk to you, that means either, you are treat them or you will be sued by them. And yeah, that's definitely a very good topic. If we can remove something like artifacts and further to guide the radiologist to do a better procedure, to focus on the tumor, it's very good. That's something the interventional radiology is doing more and more today. They use some AI-based annotation as a prior, and then they can use this to guide their procedure in real time.
Oh, exactly,
Yeah. Because when you do the biopsy, you need the CT as a guidance in real time, That's why if you do the radiology procedure, like if you are interventional radiologist, you can make even double than the average, because you are getting more radiation dose. Because your procedure needs to be guided by the CT scanning at real time. Even you wear some protector, you still exposed to something like radiation.
Yeah, my research interest is like also focused on dynamical systems. So I wonder if you can combine this radiology imaging, like you can monitor how the progression of the disease and the external factors, say the intervention, for example, any drug, right, therapy, and then you can evaluate using in my brain differential equations to quantify how the therapy is effective and so on, right?
Yeah,
we should definitely talk more.
That's definitely a great topic. Like, the name is a digital twin nowadays.